We have got with us, joining us in studio, is Oladipupo Adebowale. Woo-hoo! A
Thanks for having
sports
me.
development advocate. That's what they say you are. We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you. And you're playing Heritage here with Fela Kuti.
Oh, you can't go wrong.
I just left Mandela House, and Fela is synonymous to Mandela to us, particularly as the young people. The stories we hear, the way his songs translate to us in fighting for better leadership, and things like that. So yeah. So
That's
feel
why I
at
was
home.
like, it's always his music is always music with a message.
Yes.
And it's a rhythm that has that resistance, in it. So I think we all can, we feel it.
Yeah.
But great having you on the show with us
Likewise,
today.
thank you for having me. South Africa has been fun. It's my first time in South Africa. It's been beautiful.
So you traveled from
Nigeria,
Lagos,
yes, Lagos, Nigeria.
and you came to South Africa. What
Yes.
was your mission here? What was your plan?
Funny story. I think that I am an African collaborator. I think that's what I'm aspiring to be. Or that's what I think God is making me aspire to be, because I've traveled a lot in the last 18 months to 2 years, and I just never understood why there wasn't better inter or intra-Africa collaboration, from education to sports, tourism, and things like that. And I was to come to South Africa last year, about a year ago exactly. An interesting story. We were in Europe, going to Morocco, and then Morocco to South Africa, and something happened, and so that trip was cancelled. And we were coming to watch Mamelodi Sundowns actually at the time. Yes.
Did you watch them yesterday?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Live at Loftus Westfield. And so it took a year for that trip to sort of come back to life. So I've spent the last couple of days seeing a lot of the great things in media production, your grassroots development in sports generally, not just football. It's been impressive. Been to a number of secondary schools, been to a number of, we've been to the Mamelodi Sundowns soccer schools now. And then obviously yesterday was beautiful. We got to watch the game live. It was packed. It was difficult getting. Nobody told me I needed to be there an hour and a half before, because it was difficult getting a seat. We finally sat down in the second half. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was good because we were watching it here from studio. We could see people still coming in like 30 minutes into the game.
Yes.
They were still getting to their seats. I mean, you've played sport as well.
Oh yeah. Maybe not professional. I think that I'll admit that South Africa right now is a lot more advanced than where we are in Nigeria when it comes to grassroots and youth sports development. Because when I was much younger, I have many gold medals running and playing football. Those were the two things that I did growing up. But I was also very, very smart. So I was always an A1 student in math, or A student in math. And so my mom and grandmother just were like, nope, just go to school.
Stay in school.
Yes, I did have some benefits of the academies. We had this player, Sunday Olise's brother had it. Yes, so yes, they had academy, and then Sheyi Makinwa also, who played for Lazio and the striker. He also had, so we had that temporarily in secondary school, but by the time I went into the later years of secondary school into university, my parents were like, no, just focus on your book. That's how you get out of the bad places.
Yeah, all our parents say, stay in school.
Yeah.
And now, having played sport, maybe not like you say professionally. You've also gone into talent scouting. You've got quite a smorgasbord of a portfolio. Where do we even begin?
So it's funny because so when my mom and my grandmother said I needed to go to school, got into school on scholarship, my relationship with the Olise family, the school I went to in the Southwest, I then began to organize scouting programs for him. So under 13s, under 14s, and things like that. So he will still come, for the programs, watch the competitions and things like that. So I think I wasn't able to play, but I knew that I had the brains, I knew I had the eyes for it, and obviously I have the heart for football. I'm a crazy Chelsea fan. The great days of Mohinro and Avram Grant, obviously Andre Villas-Boas. So like that period of, it was up and down with Chelsea. So So I did talent scouting for a while,
And then at what point did you realize that, talent alone is not enough without structure?
That's deep. I think that's the benefit of education, right? And like I said, I think that's why I feel like I'm also very strong in education, because I was at the African University Summit in Nairobi just 3 weeks ago. I realized that without structure, no matter how talented you are, you're not going anywhere. And so being able to go to school and then work for the biggest people or the biggest organizations sort of helped me. It put things in perspective, right? You get to see the realities of life. You want a better government, but if you do not learn how to lead, you're not going to be any different from them. And so that's sort of what happened. And I think that pivot then helped me, obviously, what I currently do now.
Yeah.
By the time I gained all that knowledge, and I'm like, I'm now able to apply many things with ease. I'm able to play politics with ease. I'm able to be in any room with ease and not feel lost. Yes, yeah.
So, in sport, we always say the spectator sees more of the game than the player.
Yeah.
So you've become that now, and you've got perspective, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And using that perspective, I want to ask you, where does Africa get it right when it comes to developing talent, and where do we fall short?
So in Morocco last year, I was surprised to see Juventus Academy. I'm not sure if you saw PSG and Real Madrid as well. In Nigeria, we have AS Roma, we have Barcelona. I don't know if we have Real Madrid as well. My point is, when you begin to bring in, I think we have Benfica as well, but when you begin to bring in these European clubs, yes, what they give us that we've lacked really is coaching development, right? So we would say, teach a man to fish, right? He won't have a problem. Now, when you have these young boys with footballs, right, and in Nigeria you have over 200 million people, you will find a lot of talent. But then you've got to build character, you've got to build the coaching development.
Yeah.
And that's what those European clubs are bringing to us now. That's going to help us. I think South Africa is miles ahead. When I saw the Mamelodi Sundowns soccer schools, that's already, have 41 centers. And I see that a lot of your development, your talents are from that school playing in the league. I think they say Lyle Foster was from the very first set. He's playing in Burnley now. And I think for South Africa, you've gotten that right. Generally, where we've missed it in Africa, particularly I'll speak very well for Nigeria, is that leadership has to understand and be in tune with the times. And so for us, sadly, we still have men in their 60s and 70s coaching the under 17s and under 20s.
Yeah.
Some of these men played football but never got any form of coaching badges, any form of, regularly updating themselves. And I think that's something that we're not getting. Another big problem I think we have, again, I don't think South Africa has that problem, because maybe that's the benefit of the World Cup, because I saw the Orlando Stadium, I've seen the FNB, I was at Loftus yesterday. I've seen the many secondary schools and high schools with fields.
Yeah.
We don't have enough of that in Nigeria. Right, I'm always telling my bosses, like, in Lagos, which is probably the biggest, Lagos is probably bigger than most African countries. I think it's the 4th or 6th biggest economy in Africa, but we don't even have enough stadiums or pitches for infrastructure. So we play on sand. I grew up playing on coal, like the coal for like the your cars, like the road to coal. But I've got injuries all over my leg. So we grew up playing on coals, playing on grass, playing on sand, but the grass is pretty minimal. In fact, you see a standard pitch, 80% of it is the sand, then the grass just survives on the other 20%. And we're not getting it right on infrastructure as well. So
I want to take up on that point you mentioned about the older generation coaching, the under 17s.
Yeah.
You've done something interesting. You're focusing on digital transformation in sport, using technology, identifying and developing talent in that way. How does that work?
I mean, I wouldn't take all the credit. I say to people that one of the things that makes me a very interesting person is that I'm always learning. I can learn from anybody. So with Plateau United, which is a club based in Jos Plateau in Nigeria, which is the Middle Belt area, we're probably the only club today in Nigeria so we've got 80% of our clubs are government-run clubs, which is another problem we have. Yes.
Okay.
We've now have we have 3 clubs that was promoted from the second division into the Premier League now that are private, which will make it about 5 of them now in the league for next season. But right now, 80% of them are public government clubs, and that in itself is a problem, right? Because in Nigeria, in Africa, sports and politics are 5 and 6, so it's usually to advantage.
Not 6 and 7. 6 and 1.
Yes. And so with Plateau United, what we did was that we realized that a lot of the things that you see with the clubs we love in Europe, and even the big ones in Africa, we didn't have. Like, you needed a functional website. So right now, you can see everything about Plateau United on the website, right? You can see the league table on the website, right? And sadly, even our NFF or the MPFL, I don't even think you can find the official league table on I don't even think they have a website, right? So we had that. We've got cameras. We've used some video cameras this season. We've got all our matches on YouTube, right? So already, unlike before, we have more interest in our younger players, right? We have the under-19s and the 17s. Our under-19s are the defending Northern champions for the Youth League from last season. They lost in the final 8. And a couple of the players from there have now been promoted to the main team. We've got about 3 of them now that are consistently making the matchday squad. I've seen the matchday squad for today. I know that 3 of them are in the matchday squad. So we used our, again, we're the tech age, right? I'm very young, so we've used the latest information and the data. We paid for the biggest softwares in analyzing data. So when you have the camera, you record, you put it in the software. It helps the coaches to analyze what they need to do, things like that. Now, it may not translate to wins and losses for the MPFL right now because of what our system is, but it does help our players, particularly because Nigeria is in a player selling business, right? Everybody wants to leave the country, right? They want to go to Libya, Tanzania, South Africa, leagues that pay much more than the Nigerian league, which I think the Nigerian league has stalled in that form of development, right? I'm sure you know ICYMI. ICYMI was one of the biggest clubs between the 90s into the early 2000s. And now we don't even really see ICYMI in the continental football anymore. Yeah.
No, we haven't, and that's for a while.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you with that, right? So gone are the days when you see that kid on the dusty field and go, oh, that's talent. You have now got data-backed talent.
Yeah.
That's could be a game changer because a lot of the so-called first world countries are also data-backed.
Yes. Yeah, because for the average person, so we've got a young man now who is, I was just talking about him as we were coming here. He was our 4th best central defensive player when we came into the season. And I think 7 or 8 weeks into the season, he drops the captain, he drops the guys ahead of him, and he's now started. And now we've got deals in Ukraine, looking for this young boy. And it's because we understood the need for data. You have the games online, you have his statistics online, you're able to provide for the scouts the things that they naturally will not see. And that's really what data helps you to do.
I get it. I mean, I was talking to a doctor who's a sports scientist as well, and how he uses data to track players' performance, injuries, everything now is coming back to data. And I think that's going to be such a nugget to work with and grow from. Yeah. But we're almost running out of time, but I have to ask you one practical solution, something that can be implemented tomorrow soonest to improve sports development in Africa. From your perspective, what would that be that we can hit the ground running with?
It's a tough question because sometimes you think from outside that it's infrastructure, right? But I think it's leadership. I say it everywhere. I say it on my podcast. I say it everywhere I have a conversation. If you don't have better leaders, anything you do is going to be for naught. That's the reality.
I mean, I was thinking you'd go invest in grassroots, school systems, those kind of things. But I guess it starts with the leadership.
I think it starts with the leadership. It starts from the top. I would naturally say grassroots, but when I think about it, I'm going to need a lot of legal buy-in, which the leaders are responsible for. Yeah. I went to watch the GDL yesterday, and that's a provincial league. Right? So even if I decide to start my own league, I'm probably going to try and survive with private funds. And with private funds, you need to make money. Right? But when you have government buying, right, the same way you have Orlando Pirates playing in Orlando, right, and you have your clubs here playing in the best stadiums that the government developed, right? Yeah. It's a symbiotic relationship. then it makes things easier for development, right? And that's why South Africa seems to be, blazing that trail. So for me, to be leadership. Grassroots is important, but grassroots would go further, right, with the proper buying. That's for me.
Your whole leadership, spotlight for me, it lends itself to Jake White. He used to be our rugby Springbok coach.
Yeah.
So he's now consulting for a school, and they're calling him to grow the school's rugby, profile.
Yeah.
And he quit because he didn't get the buy-in from the principal.
Exactly.
He's like, if the principal doesn't buy into what I'm, promoting at the school, what's the point?
Exactly.
So it comes down to leadership again.
Starts with leadership. Anybody can do grassroots, and a lot of people are doing grassroots stuff. Like, ideally, that would be the right question, right? But the leadership, like, look at Spain in their heyday as well, right? Like, there was a period where they were the David Silva years. They were dominating all across levels. Same with Germany. It's a leadership buy-in, right? Look at the German league, right? You've got the 50+1. Like, you have to make decisions from the top that then enables, right, the things that trickles down. And that's for me. Other people can argue.
That is such an important point. I have to agree with you there because, if we get the systems right in terms of the leadership, and then you can see the talent will always follow.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you very much,
Oladipupo
Adebowale joining
Adebowale.
us. Yeah, Adebowale joining us in the studio. I think the work you're doing in shaping the future of the sport in the continent is something that we want to continue and take forward. So we'll definitely track your progress. Where can we get to hear your podcast? Where can we follow you?
We've got Inside Africa Football now. I'm not big on social media for good reason, even though my team is trying to change that. So, I've got a page now, Dikbo Unfiltered, where I give my own unfiltered thoughts. Yeah, so Dikbo Unfiltered, but Inside Africa Podcast is where I usually would talk regularly about sports.
And we'll follow you there.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you
so much. And welcome back to South Africa anytime.
Oh, I'm certainly coming back this year. I need to go to Cape Town.
Oh, yeah.